So moving on to round out today's show, moving on to round out today's show, which has been a barnstormer. I have to do now for the reading series for this show what is, in my opinion, maybe one of the maddest things I've ever seen published outside like the newsletter of the Bedlam Asylum that's written by its patients. This is in the Atlantic, and I got to shout out Brandy for blowing this up on my timeline just this morning.
Yeah, like it published today, and it's already, I feel like, a classic. It's
already bloody legend, man. Yeah. It's already a bloody legend. This is by Peter Weiner, and we'll talk about him because people have sort of dug into where this guy's backstory, which it'll become more obvious as this goes on.
Is it similar to the backstory of Samuel L. Jackson in Unbreakable? Because that's the only backstory I can see for this guy.
This is in the Atlantic, published today. Headline: The New York City subway is beyond repair. Okay. It is a problem. Subways are getting worse in New York. Okay, so this guy's
pretty bad.
This guy's a solution. The subhead is: forget trains. It's time for something radically different. And is this guy not afraid to think outside the box?
He stakes right out of the box, and it's whatever. It's a masterpiece of its little genre.
So okay, I just have to read this.
Yeah.
So he writes here: the New York City subway is a miracle, especially at 3 a.m. on a Friday night. But the system is also falling apart, and it's going to cost billions to keep the old trains running. $19 billion, at least according to one estimate from city planners. The time has come to give up on the 19th century idea of public transportation and leap for the autonomous future. Right now, fully autonomous cars are rolling around Pittsburgh, the San Francisco Bay Area,
murdering
and
people.
Parts of Michigan. By the way, they're not fully autonomous. There's still someone in the driver's seat of all those cars.
And the estimates are that they have to take control to prevent a crash every mile or so.
Other than that, they're completely autonomous.
Yeah, they're great. They're completely autonomous.
So he goes, instead of fixing the old trains, let's rip out the tracks and fill the tunnels with fleets of autonomous vehicles running on pavement.
Yes.
The result would be radical improvements in throughput while saving money and increasing the ability of the system to survive a fire, flood, or terrorist attack.
What?
Okay, DJ, run that back. In case you missed it, he is advocating ripping out all the tracks of the New York City subway system, replacing them with pavement, and basically making underground highways that will be filled with thousands and thousands of autonomous self-driving cars. Listen to this.
That fit how many people?
One.
Yeah. Well, it starts with cars. This is what's so great about the piece, though, is that it builds and builds and refines itself. Because it starts where you're like, all right, well, then streets
my man
part
does
2.
not know math.
Yeah.
So check this out. It goes, these subterranean highways would be dramatically simpler than public roadways for an autonomous, artificially intelligent system because the tunnels could be limited to authorized vehicles only. No jaywalkers on cell phones, no babies in runaway carriages, just a collection of competing fleets, centrally orchestrated and offering different levels of service to different groups at different prices. Folks, I know it's sort of a hobby horse here on the show. We're often are presented with the question, what is neoliberalism? Folks, this is the answer. If you want to imagine what the most neoliberal future would look like, let's continue.
What if it was expensive, completely impossible mathematically, and horribly inconvenient?
Like the most dystopian thing you can imagine.
See, these are good
questions. What's the perk? I want to find what the thing is supposed to be better.
Well, you mentioned earlier that it actually saves money, so think about that.
Amber, savings in time and energy would come from replacing extremely heavy trains that stop at every station with lightweight vehicles that depart immediately and go directly from A to B, stopping only at one's destination. No more waiting or stopping every few blocks. Well, prices could be. Don't ask questions, Matt. We can confront how the system will work, but let's just consider some of the perks.
Because they'd all be in a line. So
prices could be flexible, adjusting to congesting and smoothing demand with a reservation system. So again, another very important feature of this is that it will be really expensive, and it will be different tranches of payments based on what you can afford. So. Maybe like the lowest level, your autonomous self-driving car won't have seats.
Right.
You can make reservations, though.
You can make reservations. And it goes, check this out. Some cabs could be upholstered with the finest leather and plated with gold for those New Yorkers who want a truly luxurious experience.
Yeah, those people will not be down in the underground tunnels with the hoi polloi. They're just going to be on their helicopters.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Others could have a work table for those who want to write on the way to the office. Trendy models
do that on the subway.
Trendy models might come sporting graffiti designs by name brand artists created as an homage to the 1970s era trains. But most would probably be slim, simple, and utilitarian. People would pay to reserve a slice of the pavement at a particular time, and the tunnels would be maintained by these fees. The prices would move up and down, adapting to demand. The new system could be dramatically faster. The autonomous vehicles would take passengers from their initial station to the final one without stopping once. The stations would have to be redesigned, outfitted with little entrance and exit ramps that carry the cabs, which carry the riders up to where the turns.
I don't want to interrupt.
This person is 8 years old. He's 8 years old.
Yeah.
This is what this is a public transportation system designed by a child.
This was when we were talking about this earlier. This is what I said, that this sounds like my nephew, who's 6, and I'm going to go see after this, would absolutely come up with this, but then like halfway through, would be like, like I don't know, like how are you going to? There's too many scooters. Like it's not going to work.
This would only cost $36 trillion.
Well, that's the insane thing.
I wouldn't mind because this beautiful child has inspired me. I want to do some engineering math. Like I literally want to look at the capacity. I want to figure out exactly what this would physically look like, how much it would cost, what the speed would be. I'm going to figure out traveling for peak hours. Yeah, no, I'm in love with
imagine
this guy is like a Charles Fourier level utopian psychotic.
This guy is going to be the villain of the new BioShock.
He's thinking small. Why not just have personal balloons?
Yeah.
Where you strap one of those old timey, like a personal hot air balloon that you strap on, and then you take it to your location, and then when you get there, you like tie it off.
Matt, I think that's a great. What is the number one problem in the city with transit systems? Not enough space.
Yeah.
Where is there unlimited space? The sky.
Yep.
This is like the type of thing that like the Italian neo-futurists who just woke up and sniffed a rag-soaking ether every day would think of.
I will say that also,
Where it's like their designs hinged on like whether you would see an Albanian or not, bad humors, and and just whatever degenerative brain problem you get from doing ether every day. This fucking rocks, but yeah, I agree. He needs to dream bigger than his $36 trillion public-private partnership.
Again,
imagine if you're on your solitary car that this asshole invents, and someone just somehow boards it to do Showtime for you.
Again, I'd like to state that at the beginning of this, he said that this would be a cheaper way to fix the
He
subway.
said billions of dollars.
That's the thing that does make it super neoliberal, is the idea we could spend $19 billion to fix the subway so everyone can ride it, or we could spend twice that to create an insanely complicated system that makes a bunch of people rich and is accessible to vastly fewer people.
Can you imagine it though? There's literally no ride sharing.
Yeah, no,
this is fundamentally a misunderstanding of what makes trains fast.
He would destroy a lot of people on them. No one would be able to go anywhere.
The first time it launched, people would start dying after being in a 48-hour traffic jam.
Yeah, I like how every idea that's worse, when he raises the ante, he's like, and here's the best part. The prices would change every second. Yeah. Like every new paragraph, there's like a thing about it that makes it worse and more.
This is what I respect about it. Like obviously, we all agree that the idea is very good. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Perfect.
But also, the literary expression of it is fucking perfect and beautiful. Not just my favorite, the one that I was reminded of that just there. The idea that there have to be little ramps to help you get up out of there is beautiful. Like that's like the Richard Scarry bit. Like there's gotta be it's gonna be shaped exactly like your scooters. You can go right up. But it's perfectly like just bloodless. Like he's using the right words. Like throughput is the word that you use if you're writing about the subway, which he's doing sort of.
Is he a civil engineer?
No. Check
this out. Did he do his PhD thesis on Richard Gere's Busy Town? What the fuck?
Is he one of like the Green Lantern's enemies? Like,
what this guy's actual deal is, I'll skip to the end where it gives his bio. He goes, Peter Wehner is the author of almost 24 books on technology, theater, and the cars of the future.
Oh, he's insane.
Yeah. So no. When I read this guy is like sort of the dark gothic inverse or twin of the charming and harmless train enthusiast.
Yes.
He wants to destroy all trains. Hey, you know what's pretty good for a public transit system? One in which one car can fit about 300 people and transport them on a series of tracks to a number of stations that will get them close to where they want to go. How about instead of that, we literally have, instead of one car with 200 people, 200 autonomous self-driving cars underground New York. That's just one subway car.
They're tiny, and they have like they all have to have their own separate power source size.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
The
that's
New York City subway system services roughly 6 million people a day. There would have to be roughly 7 to 8 million autonomous pods on the underground highways under New York. And he is saying that quote, the traffic would always be flowing. It would never stop.
Well, I
it's
think
the
that's
throughput.
true.
You gotta
On
make
and
sure it
off,
uses it.
off and on, all day, all night.
I mean,
My God.
It'll be
beautiful.
I mean, what has helped New York more than the last time that you guys built a huge, complicated highway system? What made the city
Yeah, but what you
better
guys are
than
forgetting,
that?
you're like, oh, it's 6 million people a day? Yeah, but a lot of those people aren't going to be able to afford it. So they won't be on there. See, he's smart.
He's not even Judge Doom though, because he doesn't even there's no I mean, there's privatization ambitions to it, but he's like, well, what if we just did this? Like he believes in this.
Yeah.
He believes in it.
And as it goes on, eventually, like the autonomous thing, like first you're like, all right, so there's cars driving around. Eventually, it becomes clear that he's talking about like hoverboards, like the things you see like terrified-looking 15-year-olds driving down the sidewalk.
There is a lot more to this. I mean, it's like hard to process how much genius is going on here, but there are a few other things that we have to discuss. Says here, the first elevated train lines were started in the 1860s, and the first subway tunnel opened at the turn of the century. He goes, in that era, the tech of choice was the train, and the trains were big. Autonomous vehicles, by contrast, can be incredibly live, especially if you skip over the car-shaped models and head for super lightweight transports called hoverboards or scooters. These clever devices with computer-driven balancing look a little bit like skateboards, but carry enough battery powers to go for 12 miles or more. So everyone is going to be commuting to work on underground highways on hoverboards.
This man is 8 years old.
Wait a minute, hoverboards? What happened to the thing with the desk for writing on?
I thought it would be.
Well, those would be
standing
bigger
on a hoverboard, like writing out a fucking memo?
It's a standing desk, like Ben fucking Franklin.
He goes, putting millions of
Where are you
people...
putting the gold and the inlaid the beautiful...
Those are bigger ones. Those are for better people. You
Where's
get the brown. You're in the brown group, so you ride the hoverboard, and those people drive over
And
or
I
around
ride
you.
one with the humidor.
Yeah.
Putting millions of people on cabs and hoverboards would require cleaning up the tunnel walls, adding nice lighting, and replacing the tracks with a smooth paved road. There will undoubtedly be obstacles. Cleaning up the walls and removing the old track will be difficult and costly. Some of the sections have double tracks that would cost twice as much to remove.
Oh, darn it.
Even so, a budget of $8 million for each of the 240 miles in the current system would add up to only $2 billion. Even if that cost were to double, that would still only amount to about 1/5 of the current estimate to repair the system. There will be other costs, of course.
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of insurance the city will have to take out for all the death by hoverboard.
The 240 miles of LED lighting would cost millions of dollars, but installing such a system would have side effects that would make them worth every penny. You ready for this? Rats, after all, hate the light and would be pushed to find new underground homes.
Okay, his understanding of math is bad, but I cannot forgive his total misunderstanding of animal behavior.
So he's saying we're gonna make all the tunnels smooth, brightly lit, gorgeous. But an added benefit of that is that all the bright lights will drive the rats elsewhere.
It's unreal. It's the best. For one thing, it's such a good to be sure paragraph that he actually has to break it down into like 3 or 4 paragraphs. But every stupid article like that has one of these things where it's like, to be sure, like genocide does have its downsides. But like this is like the things. like, you know, you're doing a good job when the end of your to be sure thing is like, the rats will, of course, have to find a new place to live. Like, you're just like, where are you? Like,
Yeah, there
where
will
did you
be
start that you wound
a
up here?
3 to 5 year yet rat-human war. That's just obviously.
Anyway, signing off, Dr. William Goal.
He goes on a bit more. I'm gonna skip to the end here. He goes,
I think he specified LED lights.
the biggest
Like he
advantage.
wants it to be like cosmic bowling.
Well, that'll be a lot of fun when you're standing on a hoverboard going from Times Square to Borough Hall.
This guy just loves Tron. Like, that's basically,
Yeah,
that was where it
yeah.
started,
He
and then
likes-
from there, like,
yeah.
worked his way back.
So he goes, the biggest advantage of cleaning up the subway tunnels isn't fiscal, but the fact that New York's underground would become safer, making it possible for people to walk to safety in case of a fire, flood, or terrorist attack. Right now, people are pretty much stuck in a broken train like Spam in a can. This is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The New York City subways, they may be intolerable at times, but they are safe and efficient.
Well,
for the
where
most
are you
But also,
going,
he's
though?
like, it's not just the budget that it makes it better. His budget is insanely too low.
Oh my
like,
God,
insane.
yeah.
He's like $8 million a track. Like, what
Wait a minute,
the
wait a
fuck
minute.
I
are
love
you
that,
talking
and that was,
about?
and it's not like footnoted or anything. That's like he started. He's like, well, how much does like a decent fourth starter cost
Yeah.
a Major League Baseball team? All right, so figure
much
that's a
could a-
mile a track.
Yeah.
Like, I figured it's like,
But wait a minute, how? So if there's a problem, he's saying, "Oh, you can just go." But where are you going? Are you going up the little ramp?
The ramps.
How
Matt.
steep is the ramp,
The
though?
ramps.
But how steep are they?
well,
Like, so
they're
imagine,
little.
like,
Because if they're like very, if they have a very low grade, that's going to be a lot of tunneling.
So
Are they spirals?
like obviously the nightmare scenario, terrorist attack on the subway, some sort of Aum Shinrikyo gas attack on the subway. Now it would be horrible. People would be trapped in train cars, and they'd have to go to the next stop rather than go up a little spiral ramp onto the street
Yeah.
immediately. No, in his ideal scenario, if there's a fire or God forbid a terrorist attack, again, it would just be 5 million people on hoverboards
Trying to go
all
up the
underground,
stairs.
Up the same
clawing
exit.
over each other
Yep.
to get to one of the thousands of exit ramps.
One way to work around that, though, would be if you built, so assuming that this works, so you do this. What if there were then another tunnel under it that was for people that like had nicer scooters, right? And then that could be like safer, and that incents people to make more money, get better scooters, go to the
Totally.
other one, and then eventually you can continue going down, eventually, like pretty much indefinitely.
So he goes, creating an open marketplace for autonomous fleets would encourage innovation and evolution. He's talking about what would happen to the rats.
Yeah.
They would get more
yeah.
intelligent.
Oh, they're already half as big as me. I give it 3 years before they're Felix-sized.
Perhaps the public would like fat, overstuffed chairs on wheels in some years and tiny hoverboards in other years. What are you talking about, dude? Like, so he's imagining some will be on hoverboards. Some will literally be whizzing through these underground tunnels in a giant automated Barca lounger, just like that, with a big comfy chair.
In the afterlife, I get to choose what everyone's trolley looks like. I love planning new public-private transport. It's even better than getting my rocks off with a girl.
Like standardization is how mass transit works. That's what makes it viable. Is the standards.
Well,
What this article posits is, what if that weren't the case? Like, which is,
what if we didn't take any of the advantages of mass from mass transportation?
Yeah. So ending here, he says, who knows? Competition would ensure that the fleets adjust to our tastes and the seasons. Why? Why does it have to?
What the fuck are you talking about? Our season, like, oh, I'm in the special winter scooter. What the fuck are you talking? This guy has.
What does he think the trains are like?
this is, I think, the thing that's best about the story is I don't believe that he knows, like, I don't think he's ever been on a
Yeah.
subway, let alone this.
No way. And look, the New York City subway systems are inhumanly bad compared to literally, I don't
Any
know,
foreign capital.
any foreign country. But also, they're an engineering feat for the ages, and it's just there's a reason why the top of the line shit is now better trains and not little hoverboards. Like, I don't know why he decided to go backwards.
Because this guy, as I said, is the enemy of trains. He just hates trains, even though they are far and away the most sensible and efficient way for moving large amounts of people throughout a city or a country.
He's too libertarian to live.
Well, that's the thing that I find so interesting about this article, because you can find insane screeds about public policy anywhere you want on the internet. They fucking publish this shit in the fucking Atlantic. This is the house paper for neoliberal conventional wisdom.
That's the part of it that kind of blew me away with it too, because like this is clearly an edit. More than one editor read this.
Yeah.
Thing, looked at it and was like, all right, like good. Actually, that semicolon's in the wrong place. Like, why are you the website that publishes this? Like, it's one thing if you're like Newsweek or like one of these things where you're just like hanging on by your fingernails.
Right.
Like, you're the fucking Atlantic. You can always say no to like the Batman villain that hates trains. Like, it's not hard.
But it's like, well, you lose me with the rats being scared of light and the barca loungers and all of that. That's kind of goofy, but you really got me on demolishing a public good.
Yeah, exactly.
And replacing it with a privatized system that your access to depends on your ability to pay for it. That really got me.
It's no longer give me liberty or give me death. It's give me capitalism or give me the worst fucking public transportation system I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, one of the few paragraphs that Will did not read of it is him talking about how like with the lighting, this opens up new opportunities for advertising, which could now be ubiquitous throughout the tunnel, so that your entire experience is just like you're driving by a billboard that never ends.
Think about
which is
first week estimates. How many people would die?
1 million.
Like
I can't wait to be decapitated while looking at an ad for Casper fucking mattresses.
it would be like the Hindenburg every day.
Every day.
By the way, the new subway will be run on a pneumatic gas system powered by hydrogen. Smoking will be allowed. You can set off fireworks in the subway now. It's whatever taste we have as a feeling or as a person will be individually specialized to you. The last paragraph here. The 21st century deserves new ideas and approaches that take advantage of everything we can do with computers and artificial intelligence and robotics. We don't need to stick with our old tech when we can dream something newer and smarter. We don't need to stick with our old tech.
See you in hell, folks.
We don't need to stick with our old tech when literally the dreams of the diary of a madman can now be substituted for the largest mass transit system in America.
You don't need your old, out-of-date meat body. We can just put your skull in a jar with a brain. You can just be a brain. It'll be so much more efficient.
Long live the new flesh, folks.
So, yeah, that is Peter Wainer, enemy of trains everywhere.
Peter Wainer, come on, Chapo.
Peter Winger's star in Unbreakable 2 as the villain.